Sharia law vote now. There is no doubt that Sharia law is gaining a stronger presence in America, a concern for some citizens who believe the values of the religious law do not align with Western culture. Of course, not all Muslims support radical laws and customs, but the threat from those who do simply cannot be ignored. There is a true danger among those who are trying to impose these beliefs on Americans, and some feel it is time to take action. In a new poll, Americans are voting on whether or not President Donald Trump should make a clear statement about Sharia law by banning it in America. What do you think? Is this a necessary step or taking things too Congress finally does it, delivers the most devastating news of Obama's life right to his doorstep. According to reports, Congress has just put former President Barack Obama on notice that he could lose his government pension if continues to party and travel like a celebrity. Ever since he left office, Obama has been seen partying on yachts with Hollywood stars and jet-setting all over the world. He's already raking in millions of dollars in book deals and speaking fees, and it's clear Obama is not willing to give up his lavish lifestyle anytime soon. Why should the people continue to subsidize Obama when he's perfectly capable of supporting his family for generations to come? USA Today reported that Congress is taking another look at a bill that would cancel pension payments to presidents earning $400,000 or more in a fiscal year. That's a measure that Obama himself vetoed when it was introduced. In response to the report that Obama's earnings could trigger congressional action, Jason Chaffetz, House Oversight and Government Reform Chair Jason Chaffetz responded. Busted Chelsea Clinton caught red-handed stealing. Chelsea Clinton is facing a federal lawsuit over her children's book, She Persisted, after an upstate New York author came forward with claims that she stole from him. On Thursday of last week, Christopher James Kimberly filed a lawsuit against the former Secretary of State and Penguin Random House for copyright infringement. He is seeking up to $150,000 in compensation. Kimberly claims he pitched his children's book, A Heart is the Part That Makes Boys and Girls Smart, to Jennifer Loja, the president of Penguin Young Readers US, 4 years ago. But instead of choosing to publish his book, the writer believes Loja passed his idea over to Clinton. I am in disbelief, Kimberly told the New York Post. Clinton's She Persisted was published in May of this year and is now on the New York Times bestseller list. In April, Kimberly filed a cease and desist order to stop more of the books from being published. In his filing, Kimberly claims that 3 of the same quotes from his book appear in Clinton's and are also accompanied by similar illustrations. The appearance of impropriety is striking, the lawsuit. Chris Matthews just insulted Trump voters in a way that can never be taken back. Liberals just can't seem to grasp the fact that a good portion of the people in the United States supports President Donald Trump. To the tens of millions of Americans that voted for Trump, the Russian collusion scandal is absolutely absurd. MSNBC's Chris Matthews recently demonstrated just how clueless liberals are about rural states with the disgusting comment he made about voters from red states. I think there's clear evidence, textbook evidence for collusion, Karen Jean-Pierre said in a segment. But not only that, the collusion actually led to obstruction of justice possibly, right? Because that's what the president did. He fired. No, he fired. Here's the thing. If this was Hillary Clinton, we would already be going through impeachment committees. That's when Matthews turned his attention to John Brabender. John, I want to ask you something. You said that people out in the country aren't focusing on this. I understand there's still a lot of attitude against the establishment, he said. But if this were Chelsea and Hillary involved in this, you don't think that that crowd out there in Ted Cruz country, in Utah, southern South Dakota, and those other countries represented there, in Wyoming, you don't think they'd be going crazy and lighting bonfires at federal buildings? That's not the question. No, Brabender shot back. You'd be livid, Jean-Pierre shot back. Their hair would be on fire. Screaming from the mountaintops. You guys would be screaming from the mountaintops if this was Hillary Clinton. Absolutely. Later in the segment, Matthews doubled down on his disturbing depiction of rural voters. You said that people out in the country aren't focusing on this, Matthews said. I understand there's still a lot of attitude against the establishment. But if this was Chelsea and Hillary involved in this, you don't think that that crowd out there in Ted Cruz country, in Utah, southern South Dakota, and those other counties represented there, in Wyoming. What do you think of Matthews? MSNBC host makes absolutely unforgivable statement about Ivanka. It looks like liberals are turning their attention toward the Trump children, now that President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump are shaping up to be solid leaders. Donald Trump Jr. is partially to blame for his scandals, but the mainstream media is also targeting Ivanka Trump. They're clearly grasping at straws, attacking her simply for maintaining her appearance. Recently, MSNBC's Joan Walsh argued that Ivanka is not a true feminist because she wore girly dresses to the G20 summit in Germany. I don't mean to sound sexist, Walsh said in the segment. It can be dangerous to comment on what women wear, but the fact that she sat in for her father in a dress that was so incredibly ornamental was such a contradiction in terms. In patriarchal, authoritarian societies, daughters have great value, they are property, she continued. And the message that she's sending about her own value, about her place in the White House, and about the place of women in this administration, is really frightening. That's when Walsh, who was also decked out for her on-air appearance, commented on Ivanka's dress. It's a pink dress with big bows on the elbows, she said. There's something incredibly ornamental. That's not a dress that's made for work. That's not a dress that's made to go out in the world and make a difference. That is a dress designed to show off your girliness. Show it off, but don't then tell us that you're crusading for an equal place for women at the table, because you're not. What do you think of Walsh's comments? Are they completely inappropriate? Breaking: Obama consumed by Trump Jr. collusion scandal. But lib media is suppressing the truth. This week, the country has been up in arms about the Donald Trump Jr. scandal. While we don't condone his behavior, it's time to call it like it is. At the end of the day, he was simply the oldest Trump son was simply naive. He did not have malicious intent, he just wanted his father to win the election. But the plot continues to thicken as the day goes on. As it turns out, the Russia lawyer Donald Jr. met with isn't just anybody. In fact, he may have ties to Fusion GPS, the firm behind the Trump dossier. Just days after meeting with Trump Jr., Natalia Veselnitskaya showed up at the House of Representatives hearing on U.S. policy toward Putin's Russia. She was actually an invited guest of the Obama administration and was photographed behind Obama's former U.S. ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. A deeper dive into Veselnitskaya's Facebook page reveals that she actually appears to be pretty anti-Trump. Though she does, admittedly, criticize Trump protesters as well. What do you think of all of that? Michael Moore runs his fat mouth at Trump and finances his murder. Michael Moore is determined to convince the American public that Trump's victory in the 2016 election was illegitimate. He seems incapable of grasping the concept that 62 million people voted for Trump and he won, making Hillary Clinton a loser. Still, Moore hates Trump so much he just donated $10,000 to the theater that supposedly murdered Trump during the Julius Caesar play. Moore claims he is contributing because the conservative media bullied corporate sponsors into withdrawing their support of the play that caused the scandal. It's not a major deal if Moore donates to a group who puts on plays for the public, but the bottom line is that the left is still fighting the Trump victory. The liberal sob story is getting old pretty quick and protests are getting more violent. And still, nothing is changing. Moore is just a prime example of the whining going on throughout the country. Hillary Rodham's corrupt empire finally comes crashing down. It's all over for her now. The Clinton Foundation is finally closing its doors after years of corruption, one report notes. USA Politics Today reports that the Clinton Global Initiative will shutter operations at their main office in New York City. A filing with the Department of Labor indicates that the 22 remaining employees employed there will be terminated. The official reason provided for the layoffs is a discontinuation of the Clinton Global Initiative. This is great news for the many Americans who saw through the thinly veiled scam, what reports call a private political mafia organization masked as charity and humanitarian organization.